Hey, church family, I'm glad to be with you here this morning. A passage I want to share with you today is coming out of Joshua, chapter 24, and it's verse 14 and 15. Now, I know a lot of people are already familiar with verse 15, so let me go ahead and read that verse for you. It says in chapter 24, verse 14, "Now therefore, fear the Lord and serve him in sincerity and in faithfulness. Put away the gods that your fathers served beyond the river and in Egypt, and serve the Lord. And if it is evil in your eyes to serve the Lord, choose this day whom you will serve, whether the gods your fathers served in the region beyond the river, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." And I actually have that as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. That's one of the signs that we have in our home, and that we also teach our children. And I think when you look at that passage, Joshua is talking about, his house is going to serve the Lord, and he's talking about his family. And we also do that in our home as well. But I want to go a little bit further with it. I think one of the things that comes to mind when looking at that passage is, he's saying, "I'm going to serve the Lord." And if you look at the things before, he's talking about put away the other gods. Now, Joshua has been around since Moses was there, and he took over his leadership role from Moses, and he's seen the Lord work in many many ways. Like, he's seen firsthand, coming out of Egypt and then going through the wilderness, all the many things that God has done for them. He's seen it firsthand. And even when he was in the leadership role, there when they go to war, he's been to Jericho where the walls have fallen just by walking around them and blowing trumpets. And he's been in a battle where the Lord held the sun back until they were able to wipe out all the forces. So he's seen firsthand the way God has been working in his life and in his people's lives. So that's kind of what I want to talk about, is the fact that because he's seen, you know, how God has worked firsthand, he's looking at, these other people, they've have these other gods that haven't been able to do anything. He's seen these idols that people are worshiping, these other gods, and he's like, that's nothing to me, because I've seen the one true God and I've seen him work in my life and I've seen what he can do. So I'm going to follow him, and my house is going to follow him. And, I don't know about you, but I haven't been taken out of the wilderness. I wasn't uh, captive, and I haven't seen the waters part and that kind of thing. Like, we haven't seen water come from a rock. We haven't seen walls fall down just by walking on them. At least I haven't. I don't know about you, but I read these stories in the Bible and I believe them and I know that they're true. But even though I haven't seen firsthand like how they were able to see firsthand back then, I have seen firsthand how God works in my life and why I choose to serve him. I think about the times when I was in high school, and my parents haven't even, I don't think, heard this story. So this is going to be interesting um, if they watch this video. But I can remember how God has watched over me. When I was driving my friend's van without a license, with a van full of football players, and being thinking you're an invincible teenager, if you know what I mean, and the police being right behind me and me freaking out because I don't have a license, and if I get caught, then I won't be able to get a license. And so, all those crazy things. Or even when I got older and I'm still in my 20s and I'm still thinking I'm invincible, and I'm driving cross country and I'm tired, but I'm like, oh, I'm not going to stop. I don't need to sleep. And then, falling asleep at the wheel, but God taking the opportunity to wake me up, using the grooves in the road, that they put there. But I look back at all of these times, like, and you may be thinking the same thing, like, when have I seen God work in my life? And maybe you don't know who God is, or you're not sure, but if you really look close, you can look back and see, maybe that time when, you're looking for someone, or you thought like, oh, that's lucky, or what a coincidence. Those weren't coincidences and those weren't luck. I can think of when I had lost my job, and we were praying and trying to figure out what to do, and I went forward for prayer, and me and my wife, and we prayed with a person, and then later on, like the next week or the week after, that person come up to me and say, hey, I heard you, I know I prayed with you, or you were looking for a job. I know someone. I can't guarantee you're going to get it, but here's an opportunity. And through that opportunity, God putting that person in my life, I was able to get a job at that time. And not only that, but like I can think about times where when we were trying to have another child, and we went to the doctors after a couple miscarriages, and the doctor's telling us, hey, you know what? You will never have children again. And, just thinking about that and saying, wow, this is really, it was really devastating. But we trusted God, and we believed, like, hey, if he wants us to be done, it will be done. And then later on, God blessing us with another child. So I have seen God work in my life, and I know I've seen him work in others people's lives. Now, we may not be able to see firsthand where we see pillars of fire or seas open, or walls fall down. But if we look closely, or if we think about it, if we look back, we can see how God is working in our lives. It may not be the huge miracle, or it may be a huge miracle or something supernatural. But, you know, we are able to see him if we go back. And so that just takes me back to that passage, is as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Why do we serve the Lord? Because we know there are no other things, money, friends or friendships or relationships or any other of these material things, are not, or even other religions or other things like that. Those are not the things that are going to do anything for us. Just like Joshua said, he's like, I've seen all these things and they did nothing for these people, but I've seen the one true God, and he has done much for me. So as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. So one of the things that I think about also, as far as that passage is, me and my family, we there's a quote from C.S. Lewis that's about integrity, and it says, integrity is doing the right thing when no one is looking. And we kind of take that a little differently. We kind of say it like, integrity is doing the right thing even when God is looking, because God sees everything and God sees it all. So even when nobody else is around, we want to make sure that we're doing what God would want us to do. So I hope this has been an encouraging moment for you. I hope it's something that maybe you could think about. And I just want to say, have a great rest of your day.